He constantly sought to evolve martial arts into something more dynamic, efficient, and unpredictable. While many fighters relied on rigid forms and slow conditioning, Bruce introduced a system that blended raw power, speed, and instinct. He called it the Jungle Fury approach, a name reflecting its primal intensity and its focus on explosive movements. This method was not about showing off. It was about survival mastery and the ability to dominate an opponent in real combat. Bruce believed that training should simulate the chaos of actual fighting, where one split-second decision could determine victory or defeat. He designed drills that pushed his students physically and mentally, forcing them to tap into instincts they didn't know they had. How students faced Bruce Lee. Brutal lessons. Training under Bruce was not for the faint of heart. His students often described the sessions as grueling, almost merciless, yet profoundly transformative. A single lesson could last hours, with Bruce pushing the limits of speed, reflexes, and endurance. One key aspect of his Jungle Fury lessons was intensity. Unlike traditional martial arts schools where repetition was slow and deliberate, Bruce's method demanded fast, high-pressure responses. Students were placed in scenarios mimicking real fights, sometimes against multiple opponents or under extreme fatigue. Bruce would throw combinations at them without warning, forcing instantaneous reactions. The result? Students quickly learned to anticipate movements, read their opponent's intentions, and strike with precision. What seemed impossible at first, dodging multiple attacks while countering in perfect timing, became second nature. The core principles of Jungle Fury. Bruce Lee Jungle Fury training was built on three pillars: speed, unpredictability, and efficiency. Speed. Bruce emphasized that even a slight delay in reaction could cost a fight. Students practiced explosive strikes, rapid counters, and lightning-fast footwork. Every punch, kick, or elbow was drilled until it became reflexive, almost unconscious. Unpredictability. No two lessons were ever the same. Bruce constantly varied drills to prevent his students from relying on memorized sequences. This unpredictability trained them to think dynamically and respond creatively in any scenario. Efficiency. Unlike many traditional martial arts that emphasized long flowing forms, Bruce focused on techniques that worked in real combat. Every move had a purpose, no wasted motion, no unnecessary flourish. The Jungle Fury system taught students to end fights quickly, decisively, and brutally if needed. That the Bruce Lee way: minimal wasted movement, perfect timing, and techniques designed to stop an attack or end a fight as quickly as possible. In this video, I'll take you through 10 Bruce Lee-inspired kung fu techniques explained plainly and trained safely that could change the outcome of a real confrontation. These aren't mystical secrets, they're principles and moves you can practice, refine, and use responsibly. Stay with me. By the end, you'll understand the mindset and practical details behind each technique, how to train it, and why it works. Intro: why Bruce Lee approach still matters. Bruce Lee's greatest contribution to martial arts wasn't a single technique, it was a way of thinking. He rejected tradition for tradition's sake and built combat methods around economy, speed, and adaptability. That meant mixing direct striking with footwork, timing, and psychological pressure, always searching for the simplest move that gets the job done. In real fights, the highest value tools are rarely the most complex. They're the ones that are fast, reliable, and hard to telegraph. In the next 10 sections, we'll break down techniques Lee used, adapted or inspired, focusing on the underlying principles: structure, distance, timing, and intention. I'll show you how to practice each technique with safety and purpose, and how to integrate them into a compact fighting system rather than using isolated tricks. Remember, this is training for self-defense and skill development. Use these techniques ethically and legally. 1. The straight lead: speed over power. The straight lead is a cornerstone of Jeet Kune Do and a lesson in directness. Bruce Lee prized the straight punch because it takes the shortest path from your center to the target. The advantage is speed. The faster you can deliver a clean straight strike, the less time the opponent has to react. This is not about flailing or telegraphing, it's about posture, efficient rotation, and a committed extension from the rear foot through the hips and shoulder. In practice, the straight lead is trained with shadowboxing drills that emphasize snapping the arm out in a single line, returning to guard immediately, and moving your head off the line after the punch lands. On the pads, work the straight as a first strike tool, read your partner movement, and fire the lead through the gap. In sparring, the straight lead best use is interruptive. It doesn't need to be the knockout blow, it needs to break rhythm, create an opening, and prevent the opponent from mounting an effective counteroffensive. That interruption combined with subsequent attacks or a decisive follow-up is how a fight gets ended quickly. 2. The 1-inch principle, short-range power. Bruce Lee popularized the idea of generating enormous force from very short distances. The 1-inch principle isn't a specific single punch, it's the concept that structural alignment and explosive contraction can produce power even when space is minimal. When a fight closes to clinch range long. This was Bruce Lee. The dragon of martial arts, the man who transformed how the world looked at combat, had a method to his punches that made them unlike anything anyone had ever seen before. His strikes weren't just about raw strength or flashy moves, they were based on a deep understanding of kung fu principles, body mechanics, and explosive speed. Today we are diving into the kung fu method that made Bruce Lee punch truly legendary. By the end of this video you'll understand why his punches shocked fighters around the globe and why even today, decades later, martial artists still study and try to replicate his methods. Bruce Lee philosophy of striking. Before we break down the physical mechanics, we need to understand Bruce Lee philosophy. Bruce Lee believed that fighting wasn't about fancy techniques or wasting motion. His entire fighting style, Jeet Kune Do, was built on simplicity, directness, and efficiency. When it came to punching, he applied the same philosophy. Every movement had a purpose. Every punch had to be the shortest, fastest, and most effective path from point A to point B. He didn't believe in wasting energy with wide swings or exaggerated motions. Instead, his punches were direct, explosive, and delivered with surgical precision. In Bruce's words, it is not daily increase but daily decrease. Hack away at the unessential. This applied to striking perfectly. Instead of adding more movements, he stripped them down until what was left was pure efficiency. This mindset became the foundation of his legendary punch. The foundation, Kung Fu and Wing Chun roots. To understand Bruce Lee punching method, we must go back to his roots in Wing Chun Kung Fu. Bruce trained under the legendary Ip Man, who taught him the fundamentals of Wing Chun. This traditional Chinese martial art focused heavily on centerline theory, the idea that the most effective way to attack is along the straightest path to the opponent's vital targets. Wing Chun punches emphasize economy of motion, relaxation until the moment of impact, and accuracy over brute force. These principles shaped Bruce's early understanding of striking. He learned how to stay close to the opponent, how to punch in straight lines, and how to use sensitivity to read an opponent movement. But Bruce didn't stop there. He took what worked from Wing Chun and combined it with Western boxing fencing in his own scientific study of biomechanics. The result was a revolutionary punching system that shocked the world. The science of speed, explosiveness over power. What made Bruce Lee punch look so legendary wasn't just the speed, it was the way he generated that speed. He understood that a punch doesn't start with the arm. It starts with the ground. Bruce developed a method of exploding from the feet, transferring energy through the legs, hips, core, and finally out through the fist. His punches were a chain reaction like a whip. Every part of his body contributed to the final explosion of energy. He often trained using plyam. In the early 1970s, the lights dim, the screen flickers alive, and suddenly Bruce Lee appears in front of you, not just as a martial artist but as a living embodiment of speed, power, and wisdom. You watch him throw a punch so fast the camera almost can't catch it. You see him kick with a force that feels like it could break through the screen itself. But then something happens that you don't expect. In the middle of the fight, in the middle of the training, Bruce pauses, and through his movement, through his gestures and words, you suddenly realize this isn't just choreography. This is philosophy in action. This isn't just entertainment. This is Bruce Lee showing the world the way he lived, thought, and fought. This moment, the training scene we're going to talk about today, wasn't just another martial arts sequence in a film. It was a scene that captured Bruce Lee's entire philosophy, a philosophy that continues to inspire millions of martial artists, athletes, and thinkers around the world. And in this video we're going to break it down piece by piece, uncovering what made it so powerful, why it mattered, and how it became a timeless lesson that still applies today. Bruce Lee, more than a fighter. Before we dive into the training scene itself, we need to understand why Bruce Lee was so different. Most martial arts movies at the time were about spectacular action, flashy stunts, and choreographed moves designed to wow the audience. But Bruce Lee refused to be just another action star. He wasn't interested in simply throwing punches for the camera. He wanted every movement to mean something. For him, martial arts wasn't about performance, it was about expression. Bruce once famously said martial arts is honestly expressing yourself. That meant every punch, every kick, every stance, every breath carried intention. It wasn't about rigid styles or showing off. It was about being real, being direct, and being true. So when he stepped in front of the camera, he carried this belief with him. His films weren't just action, they were teaching tools. They were living demonstrations of his philosophy. And no scene captured this better than his training sequences. The training scene, not just choreography. The particular training scene we're talking about today appears simple on the surface. Bruce Lee is either sparring, demonstrating, or preparing for combat. But if you slow it down and watch carefully, you'll notice that it's filled with layers of meaning. He wasn't just showing the audience how fast or strong he was. He was showing the audience why martial arts mattered. One of the most famous examples comes from Enter the Dragon, when Bruce trains a young student at the temple. The scene begins with Bruce giving the student a simple instruction: throw a punch. The student throws the punch, but Bruce immediately corrects him. He tells him not to think about the punch, not to overanalyze it, but to feel it. Then comes the famous line, "Don't think. Feel." It's like a finger pointing away. The world outside is quiet, the city lights are fading into the distance, and most people are drifting into their deepest sleep. But somewhere in a dimly lit room or on the empty streets of Los Angeles, a man is wide awake, drenched in sweat, his muscles pumping, his focus unshakable. This was Bruce Lee. While others rested, he trained. While others dreamed, he worked on making his dreams reality. His nighttime training routine wasn't just about exercise, it was about discipline, obsession, and pushing the human body and mind to a level that few could ever reach. So let me ask you, can you handle Bruce Lee nighttime training routine? Why Bruce Lee trained at night? Bruce Lee was known for his unusual work ethic. He didn't just train during the day like a regular martial artist, he would often continue deep into the night. Why? Because Bruce understood something most people ignore: growth happens when you go beyond comfort. He believed the night was the perfect time to sharpen his skills because the world was quiet, distractions were gone, and his mind was sharper. The nighttime became his secret advantage, his hidden weapon. Training while the world slept made him feel like he was already one step ahead of his competition. In his eyes, every extra hour put in while others rested meant victory later. For Bruce, the night wasn't for sleeping, it was for sharpening the blade of the warrior. The philosophy behind night training. To understand Bruce's nighttime training, you need to understand his philosophy. Bruce Lee always said, "Be water, my friend." But he also believed in another truth: discipline is freedom. For him, nighttime training was about breaking limits, not just physical ones but mental ones too. When you push yourself to train at the most difficult hours, you develop discipline that carries over into every part of life. Training when the body wants rest is like telling yourself, "I am in control, not my laziness." For Bruce, this was the foundation of mastery. His nighttime training routine was more than just martial arts, it was a test of the human spirit. The structure of Bruce Lee night routine. Bruce Lee nighttime training wasn't random. It followed a structure that balanced physical conditioning, martial skill, and mental focus. His routine often began with cardiovascular conditioning, followed by strength training, then martial arts drills, and finally meditation and writing. Each part had a purpose. The cardio kept his endurance legendary. The strength training built explosive power. The martial drills sharpened his precision. And the meditation gave him clarity and recovery. Every night session was carefully designed to push his limits but also to strengthen every aspect of who he was, mind, body, and spirit. Cardio in the silence of the night. While the world slept, Bruce Lee ran. He believed running was the foundation of stamina and endurance. His nighttime runs weren't leisurely jogs, they were intense, fast-paced sprints designed to push his lungs and his A man who doesn't just kick but delivers strikes so fast that you can't even see them coming. Imagine trying to block or dodge only to realize you've already been hit before your mind even registers the movement. This wasn't science fiction and it wasn't movie magic. This was Bruce Lee in real life. When Bruce stepped into a fight sparring session or demonstration, his kicks weren't just powerful, they were superhuman in speed. And it was this speed that allowed him to dismantle stronger, bigger and more muscular opponents who believed that raw power would be enough. Today we're diving deep into Bruce Lee super kick fights, the moments that proved once and for all that speed beats strength. Bruce Lee philosophy of speed over strength. To understand why Bruce kicks were so unstoppable, we need to start with his philosophy. Bruce Lee believed that traditional martial arts often wasted too much time on rigid forms, flashy movements and unnecessary rituals. He wanted something practical, direct and efficient. His own martial art Jeet Kune Do emphasized economy of motion, the idea that the shortest, fastest path between you and your opponent is always best. When it came to fighting, Bruce believed speed could overwhelm strength. Muscles don't win fights alone. A strong punch or kick means nothing if it never lands. And that's where Bruce excelled. He trained his body like a machine, conditioning his legs for explosive, lightning-fast kicks. He combined balance, flexibility and raw speed in a way that fighters had never seen before. His super kicks weren't just about hitting hard, they were about hitting first, hitting fast and hitting with precision. The birth of Bruce Lee's super kick. Bruce's obsession with speed didn't appear overnight. From his teenage years in Hong Kong, he trained in Wing Chun under Ip Man. Wing Chun taught him close-range combat, economy of movement and direct strikes. But Bruce wanted more. He began experimenting with kicks from karate, taekwondo and Western boxing footwork. By blending these influences, he developed his own hybrid style. Bruce was especially fascinated by the sidekick. In most traditional schools, the sidekick was powerful but slow, requiring a long chamber before striking. Bruce transformed it into a weapon of speed. He shortened the motion, conditioned his fast twitch muscles and drilled the kick thousands of times a day. By the time he was in his 20s, his sidekick had become legendary. He could launch it like a bullet, cover huge distances